Welcome back to Bishop Aquatics. Today, we're going to be diving into the heart of our operations, our outdoor fish room. Get ready to see some vibrant guppies, stunning aquascapes, and the secrets behind our thriving ecosystems. Now, one of the only issues with having an outdoor fish room is the glare. So what we're going to have to do is wait for night. Obviously you can see it is nighttime now and our tanks are looking pretty good. We have our whole top rack lit up. Here, let me come see what you guys are seeing here. All right, so yeah, we're going to be looking through each tank in this top row. So our very first tank here, and we're going to go over everything, guys, because I know you want to see everything. This is our Mutt Guppy tank. Now this is probably one of our most requested tanks to actually see. People want to see our mutts for whatever reason more than almost anything else, and that's probably because they've almost always been in a 100-gallon pond, and it's everything. Ponds are great for breeding and they're great for seeing in person, but on camera you just can't get the right angle. So these are some of our mutts, and this tank is a 15 vertical. It's planted, carpeted with pearlweed that actually got planted today. It's got some very young Taiwan lilies that just got planted about a week ago. Those should be taking root about now, and then I should see some explosive growth out of them in, I don't know, a week or two. It's an Amazon sword in the back, and then we have planted hornwort as our backdrop. That's going to be a theme we see a lot of. And then, of course, we have some Rotala rotundifolia here, and a bunch of shrimp cleaning and eating on the algae. Another thing you're going to see a ton of tonight is fry. We have fry in almost every single tank, which is super cool. So we're going to see a ton of those. Now, all of the pearlweed for the most part just got planted today, in the past couple days. So it hasn't had a chance to get settled in to be aquascaped yet. So this is all just natural planting. It will all get shaped and trimmed, and we'll see some examples of that as well. But for the most part, nothing in here has been groomed yet. So that's the Mutt tank, 15 vertical. Next up, we have our purple Dumbo ear red tail guppy. Now they are in a 29-gallon. Now, I won't spend too much time talking about these guppies because I definitely could, as they are one of our most beautiful strains. You can see their huge purple Dumbo ears and full red tails here in this close-up where they're eating. If you want to see more on this particular strain of guppy, we actually just did a full video just on them. For now, we're going to focus more on their aquarium in general, but here is that video right here in case you want to see it later. Now the plant we're seeing right here is guppy grass. This is a good example of what it looks like when it is floating. And then next to it we have pearlweed, so that's a comparison for you. And of course in the background, although it is kind of hard to see, we do have anchored hornwort and more Taiwan lilies. Now you might be wondering what this ceramic thing is, and that's actually for our bristlenose pleco, who's hiding back there. He likes to hide in that. Okay. So our next tank over, now these are the Vienna guppy. We have a Java fern, Amazon sword, Taiwan lilies, so Java fern, Amazon sword, some Taiwan lilies, hornwort, and that's about it for the plants. We got some, it's actually not floating hornwort. If we can see here, it has just grown up and is growing across the surface now. And we can see the fry like that. They hang out up near the surface for shelter. That's where they feel the safest. And it gives them first access to food, which is always a good thing. We want them to eat and make sure they always get fed so they can grow and color up as quickly as possible. Now these are the Vienna Guppy. And that is another one of the plecos I was talking about. It's about max size. These guys are about 3 years old. They're a bristlenose pleco, so that's about as big as they get. And he is in there helping make sure, or she I guess, is in there helping make sure my tank stays clean. There are actually 2 of them in this tank now. They came from the Nebula Steel Pond. As I was saying, I needed to break that down, so they had to come out anyways, and I've been wanting to show you guys them better. And here they are. Of course, the Vienna Guppy, the fry in the background like the driftwood. They're just all over it. There's dozens of them.
It's always nice to see dozens of championship quality guppies. That's exciting. This is the Vienna Guppy. We just did a whole video on this particular guppy if you want to see more of them, called What a Championship Guppy Looks Like. So I won't go into too much detail on this fish in this video, as I just did a whole separate video if you're interested in this particular fish some more, as it has an interesting lineage being a championship fish.
Alright, so that is the Vienna 29 gallon. Next to it, we have our red Mosaic Dragon Threadfin guppies. Now, all Threadfin guppies do not always throw thread fins in their next generation. It's about 25% rate if you're lucky. So obviously this one is a non-thread fin. Let's see if we can see an example of a thread fin right here.
Now this is the same guppy we just did a video on a couple weeks ago, in which it was called the most beautiful guppy in the world. And I think this footage proves that just as much as our last video did. It always looks better, honestly. And if you're interested in seeing more of the details and where it was called that from, check out this video.
Now these are orange laser cories in the red Mosaic Dragon Aquarium, along with Taiwan lilies and a bunch of hornwort. There is a bundle, excuse me, of water wisteria there as well. All of these plants were planted fairly recently. Our next tank over is our blue Moscow guppies. Now we've seen these in a few videos recently. They are super pretty. There's a pumpkin orange shrimp female saying hi in the background on some hornwort. This is a mixture, we're looking at a mixture here of wisteria, lilies, and rotundifolia. It's all three kind of together there in that corner. We have these are albino sturbicoridorus, and a ton of Taiwan lilies. And you can just see how that green pops at night. Now I know you saw this tank in, if you saw our last video, Guppy Breeding in the Desert, which was kind of a preview to this video. You saw how it looked during the day, and you can just see the comparison for at night. An emerald cory coming to say hi. I'm sorry, that is a Venezuelan orange cory, I believe.
You can see here that we do mostly have females in this tank right now for breeding purposes, which is exciting.
There's some more fry in this tank as well, but they seem to be hiding in the background for now. And this was the blue Moscow planted aquarium. Now next to the blue Moscow aquarium, we have our Indo dragon guppy aquarium. Not just an aquarium, a planted aquarium. Let's call it what it is. I wouldn't say it's quite aquascaped. Plants are looking a little rough, but they're planted. Now, the main plant in here is the Alternanthera rennekai. This is not a great example of Alternanthera. These plants were not doing so well. They've been kind of nurtured and should come back just fine in this tank. You can see they all have new growth on them. So even though they're looking a little bit rough, these plants will bounce back just fine. And then in the background we have hornwort, and then up front some pearlweed. So let's take a look at the fry. We have a couple different age ranges of fry in here. We have some that are starting to color up. Let's move this light here. We have some that are starting to color up, and some that are not quite ready. They are a little younger and need a few more weeks. So you can see these ones up front are starting to get color, and the ones in back are much smaller. But tons of fry. Our next aquarium is the Midnight Blue Moscow Guppy Aquarium. Now this guppy's hard to see, so let's take a look at it carefully. It almost looks black, but it's not quite. There is some blue in there, which makes it the very dark Moscow, or the dark blue Moscow. Now this tank's a little sparsely planted, but it is full of Taiwan lilies, hornwort, and some very young Alternanthera. Our cleaner crew consists of emerald cories, and you can see the fry are coming to say hi, which is perfect. They would have hidden very well back there in the hornwort. These are 2-day-old fry, so these are extremely young and very small. You can see those are grains of sand, so about the size of 4 grains of sand is how big they are. You can see that one's even younger. That was probably born an hour ago or so. That's the size of 2 grains of sand. Very small. So they obviously like their new setup if they're all giving birth in this, which is exciting. Next to the Midnight Blue Moscow, we have our black koi guppy, also known as the tuxedo guppy. The reason we call it the black koi is because this is the short body guppy variant. And that is sometimes also called the balloon koi. So this fish has several different names, but you can see the short body very well in the female there. Now she is pregnant, but you can see that is not a normal guppy size. So that is where they get their different names from. They have variations. Now in this 20 long, we have a ton of cories. You can see them here. Some of them, you never see all of them at once. They scatter. But there's enough where you can see that they love to school together. Now we have a ton of Taiwan lilies, of course. That is a floating thing of guppy grass. And then we have some Bacopa carolininea. That's what this plant is. And there's no easier name for these guys. You just got to go by the scientific. Like guppy grass has a nickname, but this one doesn't. The scientific for guppy grass is Naja guadalupensis, but that's just a mouthful for no reason. And then of course in the background we have more hornwort. Then we have some planted and sort of kind of maintenanced pearlweed. The gaps will fill in and then that'll look really nice. Next to this tank, this is our black metal jacket guppy tank. Now this tank looks crazy. The only thing I did was take the floating hornwort and planted it in the background so it looked a little more aquascaped and, you know, presentable. But the fry are obvious. There's different age ranges here. We have some juveniles, some couple week olds, and then the newborn are swimming around right here. There is one of the adult males. He might be the dad himself. I think he's one of 2 males I have in this tank. All of these tanks are set up to be breeder tanks, so they don't have too many fish in them, adult fish anyways. So there's lots of room for the fry to grow out in and get as large as quickly as possible.
You can see here just how beautiful the black metal jacket guppy is. It's no wonder I can barely keep this guy in stock at all.
Now let's talk about some of the plants we have in this aquarium. It is definitely my definition of a planted aquarium. This is something I would put in my living room. We have, starting on the left here, some guppy grass planted by the filter, water wisteria, some bacopa, that is a young crypt, a red crypt, Taiwan lilies, more water wisteria looking great. There's some bacopa mixed in there. And this crazy red lily is called a red tiger lily. They are planted in bulbs. They reproduce completely differently than the Taiwan lily. This was purchased from Aquarium Co-op. And you can see what it grows into. It grows all the way, well, we can't really see, but all the way to the surface. But that is the black metal jacket guppy planted aquarium. Now directly next to the black metal jackets, we have our Japan blue gold double swordtail Endler guppy tank. Now this is our first bare bottom we're gonna look at tonight. And it's kind of just full of assortment of every single one of our plants that we have for sale in potted little pots to show that this is an option too. You can grow it like this or aquascape it like this. Now let's take a look at the fish that are hanging out in here because we have a ton of them. This is the Japan blue double swordtail Endler guppy. Now they don't actually get their swordtail until they are well into adulthood. Definitely colored up, and it takes a while to really get the swordtail effect. I have 2 different kinds of these. You can see the proper coloration of this one is, they're so happy, hard to get to sit still. They have blue on them in the body. So this guy is perfect pretty much. And then he will get his red tail as he matures. Let's see if we can spot a happy adult. There's a juvenile that's starting to get his tail back there. He's hiding way in the back though. Okay, we'll have to wait till our second tank of these guys because there's like 100 in that one that we can look at. But this is kind of our demo tank for plants and for our Japan blue gold double swordtail Endler guppy. Now our other tank is full of the full red double swordtail Endler guppy. So it just doesn't have that blue, but you'll be able to see the double swordtail a lot better in the other tank. All right, directly next to that, we have our full gold guppy planted aquarium. Now this one is full of healthy Alternanthera as well. This is what it looks like when it's healthy. And a ton of several week old fry. So these are about 2.5 weeks old. And they are starting to color up. And you can tell they've definitely grown in size, because you can actually see them from a decent distance. Now these are the parents right here. That's dad, and that's mom, and that would be daughter. And that would be, it looked like another daughter. It's hard to tell on this screen. But you can see them all swimming in the hornwort that's planted back there, as well as in the wisteria and Aldinonthera. Now, on the filter, you'll see some Anubis nana petite. That is a very slow growing plant, but it adds a nice aesthetic appeal to an aquarium in my opinion. We also have these lovely July cories in the aquarium. I love July cories. That is the full gold guppy aquarium. The next aquarium over, we have a bunch of emerald cories, and it is planted with bacopa and hornwort. Now this is the albino red ear koi aquarium, actually just the albino koi aquarium, excuse me. And that is actually our only adult fish. It is full of a bunch of fry though. And they are all scattered around this hornwort. So they're a little hard to spot, but there's a ton of them. The last, but certainly not the least tank on our top rack is the red rose guppy tank. Now this is simply planted with hornwort and pearlweed, as well as a little Java fern, or Wendelov fern, I'm not sure which on that. Somebody help me out in the comments. Spotted cories, and a ton of red rose guppies and fry. These guppies look amazing. I love the way their tails flow. No other guppy's tail shimmers quite like that. It ripples, like you can see the, it's got streaks, very subtle streaks of black in their tail. And when they swim, it kind of ripples weird. I really like it. Now all of these tanks will get aquascaped in the next month or so. It just takes time for the plants to grow out, and then you have to prune them and work with them. But that's it for our top rack, guys. Now, we need to move to the bottom one. Guys, that took forever to film. It's been days. Whew. Sorry for the delay. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought, even if you hated it. Sorry you can't have your time back. That's not how it works. But if you want me to change something for the bottom rack, let me know in the comments. I will think about doing it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.